Hi everyone, welcome once again to Elvis the Ultimate Fan Channel. Marlyn Mason is an American actress, producer and screenwriter. Her acting credits include roles in Hogan's Heroes, Bonanza, The Big Valley, Dr. Kildare, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The FBI, Mission Impossible, The Fugitive and The Invaders, to name just a few. She is known to Elvis fans for co-starring in his 1969 movie The Trouble with Girls as Charlene. Marlyn has many happy memories of working on the movie with Elvis, and she joins me on the line now to share some of them with us. Hi Marlyn, and you're very welcome to Elvis the Ultimate Fan Channel.
Hi, how are you, Steve?
I'm doing very well, and let me see now. I thought you were in California, but you informed me that you're actually in Oregon, is that correct?
Yes, I'm just over the California-Oregon border, about 36 miles. And I want you to know you're my hot date for the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Of course, it's night where you are, isn't it?
It's about 8 p.m., yes, but that's definitely an offer I can't refuse. That's probably one of the best offers I've ever had.
It's safe.
I'm obviously in a very select company then, because obviously Elvis, you had a hot date with Elvis as well, of course.
Well, not really. Not really, but he was lucky he was married. But I'm glad he was too, because I think I would have had my heart broken otherwise.
Yes. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
No,
So.
but I love the guy. Everybody did. He was. I mean, I had no idea at the time that I was, how he was going to affect my life so many years later. And I'd rather have him alive and well, but he has given me a great old age, and getting to go to Memphis and Europe and different Elvis festivals it's just been fantastic.
Okay, well, let's sort of start at the beginning then. As I'm sure almost everybody listening knows, you co-starred with Elvis in The Trouble with Girls, and then of course there was a parentheses as well, which was "and how to get into it." But you didn't actually have to audition for the movie, did you? You got it through. Was it Peter Tewksbury, the director?
Yes, Peter Tewksbury, as I was told many years later, that if they didn't accept me as Charlene, that he was going to walk, and he'd already done 2 films with Elvis. And I did not know Peter, but he obviously knew me and knew my work and wanted me for this role. And as Bruce Lee taught me, what is, and it worked out in my favor, obviously. And it was just great fun. And I had just come off of a Broadway musical, and when you're away from Hollywood for 5 minutes, you tend to get forgotten. So I was in New York for almost a year. And when I came back, I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And I was only home a couple of months when the call came through to do the Elvis movie. So I was really hot to trot by then, ready to get back to work.
Yeah, so the production run ran from October, the middle of October till the end of December, just a little bit before Christmas, I believe.
Yes, and I was with him when I wasn't with him when it was played, but when his comeback special came on, he asked me to watch it that weekend, and I thought, oh God. And when I met Elvis, I was very honest with him. I said, I'm not a fan of yours, but I said, I don't mean that unkindly. I said, I'm talking about the music. I said, I've always been interested in Broadway musical music, and I just, I never, even in high school, I never followed whatever the current, rage was with music. And
Yes.
he just got that funny little grin on his face where his lip would go up on one side. And I could and when I think about it now, he's probably going, oh my God, what am I working with here? and so, but he was fabulous. And anyway, I hope I answered your question.
Yes. I mean, tell us a little bit about the first meeting of Elvis.
Well, Jonathan Lucas was the choreographer, and that was our first day of the first music rehearsal, and that was in the rehearsal studio at MGM. And Elvis, I was there, and Elvis came in. He was from the get-go, I thought I was not going to like him based on nothing. I just had assumed he was going to be a kind of a lazy actor. I had not seen any of his movies. And I just thought, oh God, I hope he's professional, but we'll probably be waiting all day for him. Oh my God, the guy came in right on the nose. And when I saw him, I went, oh my God, he's kind of cute. And so anyway, we had that initial conversation and got into the rehearsal, and we just started singing, and there was just he and I kind of worked he was the male version of me, and I was the female version of him, is how I can best describe it. We both just wanted to work. And he was wonderful to act with. And so from the get-go, it was just the most joyous 10 years. I wished 10 weeks. I'll get it down right. And he was the ultimate professional, and he loved to rehearse and was always in good humor. It was a good time of his life. Lisa Marie was about, I think 2 months old, 5 months old. She was just a little infant. And he was 34 and in just grand shape. You've seen him in the movie. I mean, my God,
yes.
He gets into that white suit.
Oh, yeah.
I remember at one point I said to Tewksbury, I said, forget my close-up. I said, I can't beat that face. Just keep the camera on him. And he liked that. I mean, he enjoyed all that, but you could tell there was a little bit of shyness in him at the same time. And I think he was just, I think we were both the same we both knew we were talented, but it's not what, stuck in our brains. It was that we couldn't wait to get in and do what we love to do most.
Yeah.
And so it was, I used to go to the studio on my days off, because just to be around that whole company, it was just an upper the whole time.
So you had lots of fun times on the set with Elvis then, yeah?
Oh my God, yes. Everything was fun. He had a great sense of humor, and he was quick. And if you threw something at him, he'd just toss it right back. And this wonderful, I always, when I'm doing Q&As with the fans, I always tell them it was like a fine tennis match. And we were both at our, in top form. And he was I got him at a really good time, I think, in his life. And that's when I didn't know this. And if he told me, I have no recollection of it, but that was his Trouble with Girls was his next to last movie.
That's right.
And he had one more to go, but he did call me into his dressing room to tell me he was just overjoyed that he was going to play the International in Vegas. And I had done some singing in Vegas as a production singer. And so Vegas was no big deal to me. And he was just over the moon. Well, I have no idea what it's like to, book deals and things in Vegas at that time. But he was just over the moon about it.
And of course, it was a great success. I mean, it revitalized his career. The NBC TV special, and then the return to Vegas just revitalized him.
Yeah. Well, when he called me in, when he had told me he'd called me into his dressing room another time and said, my comeback special's on. Would you watch it and tell me what you think? And I'm thinking, oh yeah, okay, Elvis, I'll tell you what I think. And I just thought, oh, I've got to watch this special now. Well, see, I had never seen him perform. Well, he came out in that black suit, and if I had false teeth, I would have dropped him, because the first thing I said to myself, I think I said it out loud, my God, I'm working with that every day.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
He did. He really, I mean, it's called a TV special, and he really did look special.
Oh, yes. It was, well, like I say, I mean, I thought he looked great working with him, but
Mm,
seeing him
mm.
and doing what he loved to do most, singing and playing his guitar, and he just, oh my God. I mean, I will never forget that. And I went back to work on Monday, and I knocked on his door, and he said, "What's up?" And I said, "I told you I wasn't a fan of yours, but I said, I sure am now." I said, "I had no idea how talented you are." I said, "I mean, I love, the whole thing with acting, but I let him know I had no idea." He was so natural. And the thing that I appreciated most, I think, in everything that he did was he never faked anything. If he went up on a lyric or said something wrong or in a lyric, he would just go with it and share it with the audience. He
Yeah.
never, he never tried to cover anything up.
Yeah, it's funny. His father often said that he did stay the same all the way through it. He didn't sort of become the big star and the big head and everything like that. He was just Elvis.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I think that's I in a much smaller way. That's how I have always felt about myself. Is my whole life really is I'm at the most joyful when I'm acting.
Mm,
And I know when I'm good, and I know when, I think I can do this better. But I'm not conceited about it. And because I know it's what I do, and I know that that's where I shine, because I get the reaction from the fans. Or in this case, in a movie, you're working with a crew and a director,
yes.
and it's just a feeling, and it's so wonderful if you're lucky enough to get to experience that. And then to get two people, I think Elvis would nod. I really do. If he heard me talking about that, I think all he wanted to do. He did say to me, he would like to do one good role,
Mm.
because he knew people in Hollywood laughed at him. That was the saddest thing he ever said to me, and that's the only word for word. He said to me, "I'd like to make a good film because I know people in this town laugh at me."
Yes, I've heard he said that as well, and that is shocking,
Yeah,
really, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's what was heartbreaking to me. But I never, and of all the conversations we had, that one line stayed with me for some reason, because when he died, and people started, calling me and wanting to do shows, I said, "No, I don't want to make money off of Elvis." I said, "I love the guy." I said, I'll leave that to everybody else."
Hmm.
And so for years, I didn't do an Elvis show till I went to Memphis in January of '09, and he'd been dead quite a while. And but I had started making little independent short films, and that can get very spendy. And that's what got me. I thought, oh, Elvis won't mind if I sell his photos to make
Yeah,
movies.
no, 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 no.
and and then once I did it, I really like being with the fans. They're terrific.
Yeah, they're like a family more than fans, aren't they? They're an Elvis family. That's what I always say, anyway.
Yes, yeah. Because there's just a commonality of Elvis that runs through the whole audience when you're in an Elvis group. I was on an Elvis cruise, and there's 2,000 Elvis fans,
Wow.
and the place just rocked.
Mm. Yes,
And
yes, it
it's the
would.
music, of
Yes,
course.
of course. Yeah.
And but it was it was quite an experience. It's all been a fabulous ride, really.
Tell me, did you take lunch breaks together while you were shooting the movie?
We took a lot of lunch breaks,
Yeah.
and that's when we would get into some talking about the business and stuff. But had I known that I would be doing this, I would have paid more attention.
Yeah.
I would have made notes. First of all, I'm going to be 82 in August,
Oh, wow.
and I thought I'd be dead a long time ago. And so and trying to remember when I did the first Elvis, I had to run the movie to draw on maybe sparking some memories that were tucked away. And that was how, when I started doing the Q&As, because I wanted to be able to answer the questions. And so I watched the movie several times to spark up my memory and remember things that I never really gave any thought to.
Let me see. There was something else I wanted to ask you. Oh yeah, he had a nickname for you, didn't he?
Yes, he called me Cap, CAP, and that was because I used to wear a little cap to work every day, and so he just started calling me Cap, and that was it. I don't remember him ever calling me Marlyn.
Did he ever sing to you during your lunch breaks or things like that, or did he just save that for the movie?
Oh, no, I never saw him. I never saw him much. He had his guitar in his dressing room, and he would play, but I don't recall him ever having it on the set, unless he's using it in the movie, and I think he uses it at one point.
Yes, he does. That's right. Also, he was a very generous man as well, wasn't he, Elvis?
Yes, yeah. And had I known, I would have saved some of the stuff he gave me. He'd call me in. He'd say, Cap, get in here. And I'd go in his dressing room, and there'd be a pile of hats. And then there'd be a pile of scarves. And he'd say, pick one. And I say, well, you pick one. You pick it, give it to me. And so he'd pick a scarf. And I gave all those things away because I'm not nostalgic about things. So I just gave things away. And the most really neat thing he gave me was a little owl ring, and I wore that for a while. But then when I got married, a couple of years later, in '72, I thought, oh, I'm not going to wear this ring anymore. So I gave it to a hairdresser who collected owls. Her name was Kay Pownell. And I don't know if Kay is still alive or not. Nobody seems to know where she is, the few people I've asked. And but I gave it to her, and she said, well, are you sure? And I said, yeah, if I ever want it, I said, I'll find you.
Ah, no.
And I thought, no, she let her have it and enjoy it. And maybe she gave it to somebody who, I didn't know if she had children or not. So I do not know where that ring is, but it's somewhere.
Wow, I'd be very interested to know where it is. I really would.
Yeah. Yeah. Put the call out.
Yeah, I'll try. Some of my connections. Now, this is going to make a lot of the female listeners prick their ears up when I say this. I've heard on the grapevine, Marlyn, that you actually undid Elvis Presley's pants zipper. Is this correct?
Oh my gosh. Oh yes, I have forgotten all about that.
I'd say we've got every female listener's attention now about this.
I think that you can see me do that on a YouTube.
Oh, right.
On one of the YouTubes, just put in Marlyn unzips Elvis's pants and see, maybe it will come up. All you women out there, look, try or word it somehow. But yes, Mr. Tewksbury, he liked to get certain reactions out of people, and I had done my close-up already, and now the camera was on Elvis, and I was sitting for his close-up, for his look to look down at me, and that Tewksbury took me aside, and he said he wanted a particular look from Elvis. He said, I don't care how you get it. Just get me that look, that reaction. And knowing how Elvis worked, I was very comfortable because he was one that just liked to react to the freshness of something that wasn't rehearsed. And so I'm sitting in the chair, and while he's talking to me, I'm not saying anything. I slowly turn around, and my face is just right in line with his crotch. And I thought, okay, and I'm just saying, go for it, and I look up at him occasionally, but then when I start working on his belt, and I got how his pants were put together, I got that part undone, and then I had the zipper. So I just started unzipping, and it's just a millionth of a second look on his face where he looks a bit curious. But you have to look really hard You have to really watch his face, and that's the moment when I was started to unzip. And then I'm thinking, come on, Tewksbury, say cut. I can only this zipper only goes so far. And the timing worked out perfect. Elvis never broke character. He could have stopped and said, "What the hell is she doing?"
Yeah.
But he stayed right in character. And it's quite lovely. It was a lovely moment.
So I'm sure now there's quite a few people after listening to that now, they're going to go to YouTube and type that in and see if they can see that.
Yes, and I'll try looking that up too, so that the next time if somebody asks about it, I can say, yeah, you can see it type in this and you can get it.
Yeah, and if I find it first, I'll send you the link.
Okay, all right.
It's a deal.
The game is on.
Yeah. Do you remember your last meeting with Elvis?
No, it was I remember the last day. It was the last day of shooting. I met him the first day, and 10 weeks later, we said goodbye. Well, we didn't. I don't even recall saying goodbye. We just sort of. It just. I have a photo of the cast and some of the crew. I mean, some of the cast and the whole crew, and Elvis and I with sitting next to the camera. It's a nice memory picture. I was crying a lot. I was just crying in between because had become such a family. It was such a wonderful crew, and we'd all just lived together for 10 weeks, and it was just tough.
And but you didn't unfortunately keep in touch with Elvis after the movie wrapped?
No, and I've not kept in touch with except a couple of actors, and we didn't really stay in touch. We just met up many years later. No, my stuff was I would do a TV show for a week and then on to the next one, and that's pretty much how my career was I was real busy in those years. And so you're with a family for a week and then you have another family the next week. And,
Yes.
and, so everything is very short lived,
Did you go to any Elvis concerts afterwards in the 70s?
No. Mm-mm. No, I got the best of him, I think.
Yes. Oh, you certainly did. Yeah. I mean,
he was healthy but he was so excited, and I know he was excited about getting on the road, but that's what killed him. I think, it's not really healthy after a couple of weeks.
No. Did you follow his career a little bit more after the shooting, or did you just sort of went back to?
I just went on with my own life, and I remember I was walking across the TV when it came on that he had died, and it didn't really stop me. It was Bruce. When I say Bruce Lee taught me what is, nothing much shocks me since he told me that. And I was just curious about why. I knew that he had gotten heavy, and I thought, oh, I wish I had stayed friends with him. I'd knock him about and get him to eat right, because he was just, he just looked so bloated, and it was so sad to see.
Do you think that probably part of his downfall was because he was so sort of compliant and he just did everything that was asked of him and didn't question a lot of things? Do you think that he should have questioned maybe Colonel Parker's decisions a bit more?
Well, see, because I don't know the truth. I met the Colonel a couple of times, didn't care much for him, so I just kind of ignored him, and he wasn't around that much. We sort of had a nodding sort of, that was, I'd see him across the way and just let him know that I saw him and nod, but I didn't get friendly with him. I don't know, there was just something that was off-putting about him, so You
just felt there was something just not right about him?
Well, it was, I remember, it was Halloween. There's a photo, I don't know if you've seen it, of me sitting down holding a pumpkin.
I think I have, yes.
And Elvis is in the white suit and he's looking down at me laughing. And it was a pumpkin that a friend of mine had made of Elvis. And it was just brilliantly done. It was wonderful. So while we're talking about that, the Colonel came, and I said, "Oh, Colonel Parker, come over here and look." And Elvis leaned into me and said, "Don't ever tell the Colonel to come here."
Oh,
And that just sort of, I just turned off the Colonel after that.
yeah, yeah.
I thought, well, he's no fun. He's
Mm.
somebody to stay away from.
There's definitely a feeling after Elvis died, and particularly also after the Colonel died as well, that maybe that some of the decisions that the Colonel did were more in favor of the Colonel than in Elvis's favor.
Yeah, yeah, that could well be. And as you say, Elvis maybe being compliant. I know he felt. I always had the feeling that he felt that he owed the Colonel something, because that's, I guess what really he got his career going.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did give him the start that he needed. The only thing is, once he lifted off, once the rocket took off and went up into the stratosphere, how much the Colonel did then, to make it any more successful than it already was.
Yes.
A lot of people have said, well, Elvis burned so bright that anybody could have managed him nearly.
Yeah. It's not knowing all the details, and I never read up much on Elvis or anything. I just had my experience with him, and that's sort of the framework of what I know. But I wouldn't be surprised. I understand that the Colonel was confined to the United States. He couldn't go to Europe.
Yes,
because he was
correct.
wanted. Yeah.
Well, he was an illegal immigrant, wasn't he? And he didn't have a passport. But
Yeah.
I'm sure he could have got round that. He could have applied for.
Well, but I understand he was wanted by the law. Was that not true?
Oh, well, there was also a rumor as well, yes, that he was wanted back in Holland in Breda for.
Yeah.
He was questioning over some sort of felony or murder or something, I believe.
Yes.
It was obviously never proved, but it's kind of, it's still very shady. A lot of it is still very shady.
And have you seen the movie with Tom Hanks and the young man that plays Elvis?
I've only seen the trailer. There's a lot of excitement in the Elvis world about it because it doesn't actually come out until June the 24th, I believe.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm anxious to see it.
Yeah, well, however, I have spoken to somebody who's seen the whole movie. I actually made a video on my channel, my YouTube channel there last week about it, because a relative of theirs actually worked on the movie, and Baz got everybody that worked on the movie together there a few months ago and let them watch it at a private screening. It wasn't the same screening as Jerry Schilling and Priscilla Presley went to. But according to this person that's seen it, it's absolutely brilliant. Baz has really got it right.
Oh gosh.
Because Baz is a huge fan.
Yes. Yeah, I'm anxious to see it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's some people saying, well, he doesn't look like Elvis or he doesn't sound that much like Elvis. But, as long as he gets the essence of Elvis, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's what I like about some of the ETA guys.
Mm-hmm.
That they are. I'm friends with Sean Clush.
Oh yes,
and he's. I mean, and several of the guys. I mean, are kind of eerie to be around, and especially in certain little moments, they just are Elvis for. It's like they really are Elvis for an instant.
Yeah.
And some of them are really fine performers, but Sean is the one so far that I just got goose pimples around. And he calls me Charlene all the time. and every time we talk, he says, "I always liked you, Charlene." And he does one of Elvis, and I just sort of melt, and I said, "Okay, Elvis." And of course he's older now, but he I think maybe had he been younger, that whatever age they play Elvis. Well, he was young when he died.
Yeah.
That he might have had a nice shot at it.
But these guys, as you say, the ETA guys, and this movie as well, is definitely going to sort of almost a springboard for the younger fans. Hopefully, I think that's one of the ideas behind this new movie, is to turn on the turn on the younger generation to Elvis again.
The music.
Yes.
Well, I always think the music will, it's like Sinatra and Bennett. Those guys will never die. Well, neither will Elvis. You don't hear that with Michael Jackson. And as big as those guys were, but Elvis is up there in that echelon of very few where that music is just, has no time. It's timeless. Yeah, I hope it does that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be one of the first in line to see it. I just can't wait. I think I've watched the trailer about 300 or 400 times. I mean, if for people that think that Elvis is a has-been and he's a relic of the 50s and 60s and 70s, just the trailer alone on YouTube has been watched over 20 million times.
Yeah. Well, there was a fascination about him, and I don't know, because of course, we didn't know how things were going to end up with him. So when I would have my conversations with him, I was more fascinated with just his looks. The guy he just was stunning. And just fascinated with his naturalness to work with. I mean, that's just, and he was so comfortable to work with. I mean, he allowed me, because he was so giving, he just allowed me to soar. And even though it's a silly little movie, our scenes together really sparkle. And it's that the uniqueness of him, and I think that will never die. I think that's what will keep Elvis alive, that uniqueness. And then you hear his musical abilities and his music over the years, and how his voice changed. And when he let out a Pavarotti note one day that just sent me flying to his dressing room, and I banged on the door, and he opened the door, and I said, was that you? And he just started to laugh. He said, yeah. And I said, oh my God. I said, you could be an opera singer.
Yeah, well, he could sing everything.
He could. He had a huge range. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been fabulous to watch him do opera and those romantic roles. Oh my God. The poor woman who'd had to have worked with him.
Well, when you hear the endings of some of his recordings, like Surrender and It's Now or Never and things like that, some of the notes he hits, it's just that they still to this day make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
Well, Steve, that's exactly what happened to me when I heard this note come out of his dressing room. He had this little trailer we were out on the back lot, and he was actually in a trailer, and he just let fly with this note. And it was Pavarotti at his beyond Pavarotti. It just stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, this guy's got talent that nobody even imagines.
Yeah. And I know his health was failing at the end, but even in the CBS television special, when he does Unchained Melody, sitting at the piano, his voice never failed him.
No,
his voice never failed him.
No, and
his health may have been, but not his voice.
And when I saw some of those last, I don't know if maybe I have seen the last performance film, that was filmed of him when he was he looked like he was, if you stuck him with a pin, he would burst. But he still got the notes out. And I thought, he still, in spite of his illness, whatever it was, that he still wanted to give to the fans. And still give him that note.
I mean, looking at the CBS TV special, he is clearly unwell. A lot of people say he was fat or he was overweight, but I don't think Elvis was ever truly fat. It was more bloating, wasn't it?
He was bloated. And whatever, and I think he was on probably, is it prednisone, the thing that swells you up? I think that's what he was on for pain, because I've always heard that he had a twisted bowel and that he was in pain. and that he was in pain. And I thought, well, that's perfect for the road, downers to get to sleep and uppers to perform and get into that
Yeah.
habit if you're in pain, because Elvis was not going to not perform for his fans. And then it gets all out, and then it starts affecting you. It has to start affecting you emotionally, because a friend of mine did 181 shows with him, and he was with Elvis at the beginning of the downhill side. And
Who was
that
that?
was Duke Bardwell. He was a guitarist because of Elvis, never dreaming that one day he would be playing with him. And he got a call. I think Schilling left, somebody left, and he got a call and said, get over to so and so, you're going to be playing for Elvis. And all those guys, they just knew all how to play all that music. They were all just impeccable musicians. So here he goes over as this young guy, and Elvis, when he heard Elvis when he was 9 years old, and it made him cry. It was a song that Elvis did called Old Shep.
Yes.
And he said, if that guy can do that to me, I want to affect me like that. I want to do that to other people. And he picked up I think I'm telling the story right. He picked up a guitar and learned how to play it, and had this very interesting, very different singing voice Duke has, but it's a wonderful storytelling voice. And I did a 7-week tour in Europe with him. The guy was just incredible. But I told him, I said, I wish and because of Elvis, he loved Elvis, but Elvis and the boys were not particularly nice to him.
Oh.
But he just wanted to play. That was all he wanted to do. He wanted to do his job, back up Elvis there, but it was a tough 881 shows, some of them.
Right.
And they made a documentary on Duke's life, and I don't know. It was called The Duke and the King.
All right.
And I don't know if that can be gotten or not.
Again, another visit to YouTube might help. I might look that up.
It is a fabulous, not just of Duke's life, which is fantastic in itself, but it's his time with Elvis.
Yes.
Because it's a side of Elvis we never see. Mm-hmm. And nobody talks about it, because the fans want to hear the good stuff. They don't want to hear the sad part of Elvis. I like all of it, because I think it just paints the whole complete picture of him. Elvis would not have covered it up. Obviously, he was performing when he was in a bad state. He was kind of sharing all that with everyone.
Yeah.
So I think Elvis, if anybody was going to be honest about how he was at the end, or at the beginning this was the beginning of the end.
Yes.
And
I think Duke took over about 1974, I believe.
Okay.
So because Jerry Sheff left for a little while, the fellow that normally played bass for Elvis, and I think Duke was 74, 75, I think. And my memory's a little bit hazy, but that sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds about right to me too. And that would have been at the beginning, of when he started, when all the meds started hitting.
And of course the health problems and all that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I was gonna say, I mean, I don't wish to do you a disservice just by saying, well, Marlyn Mason is only famous for starring with Elvis Presley in The Trouble with Girls.
Oh, that's okay.
Because I'll tell the listeners as well. You were in Hogan's Heroes, Bonanza.
Oh my God, Steve! I was in just about everything. If you go on IMDb and see my list of credits, it's. In fact, I co-starred with Peter Ustinov in an Emmy-winning Hallmark Hall of Fame television show.
All right.
So I've worked with some heavyweights.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and Ustinov was, pretty huge in his time. And when I got to play this role opposite him, I was just as good as he was. He worked the way I like to work. He just tossed it to you and you tossed it back. So, yeah.
The people can look out for you. What in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible, The Fugitive?
Yeah,
Is that correct? The
yep,
Invaders.
all of those, and some of them I did two or three of.
Yeah.
I did, yeah, I did a bunch of Barnaby Joneses, and I did two Hogan's Heroes. One of the Hogan's, and I didn't know this till recently. I did the very last Hogan's Heroes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I did the very last Hogan's Heroes, and I did the very last Perry Mason.
Yes, I've got a note here actually. The final Perry Mason episode, The Case of the Final Fade Out, it was called.
Yes, yes, that was the last one, and that was great fun. They're all fun. I've had a fabulous life. And I'm still having a fabulous life. I moved to Oregon when my career came to a halt in Hollywood, and I thought, well, if I'm going to be poor, I want to be poor where it's pretty. And an old school chum of mine, she and playmate, we met in grammar school and in kindergarten when we were 5 years old, and then she moved across the street when she was 7, and her name is Jeanette Williams, and we grew up together. Like we were more like sisters. My own sister was 6 years older, so I was a bit young for her. But Jeanette and I grew up, and then when we graduated, I immediately moved to Hollywood, and she married and had a couple of kids and moved up to Oregon. And she'd been here a number of years, and her boyfriend at the time had built a little house, little hut for her parents, and they came up and finished their lives out here. And when her dad died, she called me and told me, and she said, if you ever need a roof over your head or you want to get out of Hollywood, you always have a home here. Neither one of us ever dreaming I would leave Hollywood, because I thought I would work forever. Well, that's not how it happened. And I thought, okay, my career seems to be, I was in my early 50s, and there wasn't that much work for women my age at that time. And so I gave it some serious thought. My car died and my agent died, and I thought dead agent, dead car means dead career. And so I called her up and I said, is your guest house empty? And she said, it will be July 18th. Why? I said, I'm coming up. And I've been here for 29 years, July 18th this year.
And you love it in Oregon, yes?
Oh, it's beautiful. And she asked me, she said, would you do my yard? Because she knows that my second love after acting is to garden. And I said, well, I don't mow, blow, and go. She says, no, I have a gardener to do that. She said, will you landscape it? And I said, sure. So it's not a big backyard, but I have been working on it for 29 years.
Wow.
And and I'm having a beautiful spring this year.
Yeah, well, gardening, you never really finish gardening, do you? Because you've got the seasons and everything has to be taken care of through the seasons.
Yes, and I love all the seasons. I love the bleakness of the winter because I don't find it bleak at all. I love the bare trees and I love the leaves falling in the fall and all the mess of it. But when I go to bed at night, everything is as it should be.
Yes.
And it's so I enjoy keeping it up, and I'm still able to do that. It's not easy. It's getting a little harder at my age, but I exercise every day to stay limber, and I walk 3 or 4 miles. Yeah,
well, you sound very fit, and
yeah,
you're still making a few movies, though, aren't you? I think did you make one last year?
I sort of got off track there. Well, I moved up here. I made 2 movies for television up in Portland, which is about a 4-hour drive from Medford. And then I thought, oh, that's great. Hollywood's come to Portland. Well, Portland moved to Seattle, and I thought, well, there went Hollywood. It's moving north, and it ended up in Vancouver, I think. And I didn't work for 11 years. I missed it. And I thought, well, I got to do something creative besides gardening. So I thought I would be an artist model. And I thought, oh, taking off my clothes is no big deal. I can do that. So I did that in an Al Ruddy movie. And so I thought, well, I can do that. But that would be interesting to be a still character and to create that for the artist. And so I never pursued it, and I gave that idea to this friend of mine, this comedian who's also a writer, and anyway, I got into we got into a conversation about older women, younger men, and I said, and I said, they've never made the right movie as far as I'm concerned about that. I said, I'm getting old now, and I have these thoughts, and I sometimes think, oh, they might make a good movie. Well, he just spun off an idea, and that's what led me to writing.
Right.
And so I told him that idea, and he said, well, I always liked that idea of you being an artist model. And we finished our phone conversation, and I hung up, and I sat in my chair, and 45 minutes later, I had written a 488-word, 2-paragraph piece about this aging artist model. And it turned into a little film called Model Rules. And it's based on the rules, basic 3 rules of modeling, and which a lot of models don't know that it even exists. And that began my career. I wrote 2 more after that, and I thought, gee, I can do this. But meeting other people along the way, I have made 21. I have acted in and made out of the 21. I've made 3. I've acted in 21 features and short films since 2007.
Wow. So you've been busy.
So I've been busy, and I've got 2 on the horizon, and yeah, and I've got one coming out. I have a small role in one. It's called Bait. It's a very, very gory horror film about sirens, the evilness of mermaids, and it's very interesting script. And I play the old siren in it, and it was great fun.
Great. So still keeping busy.
Still keeping very busy, and as long as I can memorize and walk and talk and get up and down out of a chair, I'm good to go.
Exactly. No, you have to keep active. You can't just sit in a chair all day. That's for sure.
And my idols are Judi Dench and Maggie Smith.
Oh,
And
right.
those ladies have grown old gracefully, so I'm trying to do the same thing, and not going the facelift route. And yeah, they're my idols, and would give anything to work with them. Somebody the other day paid me a wonderful compliment and mentioned me in the same paragraph as Anthony Hopkins.
All right.
And I wrote to them, yeah, this is a fan who's followed my career since he was a little boy. And he's now in his 50s, and he has done some acting. And anyway, he was kind enough to write me this letter telling me how he remembered dialogue from a certain Big Valley that I did. And it was a very sweet, sincere fan letter, but it was from an actor. And I thought, well, I know how he feels because of all the fan letters over the years that I had written to other actors. And so we have a correspondence going on now, which I'm looking forward to. It's very nice. And I don't know what led me to that, but anyway, I am working, and I love. I got I got a thing from Elvis Presley Enterprises if I was interested in doing Memphis this summer,
Oh,
and
right.
being a judge, and I said yes, by all means. So I haven't heard back, but it's still early yet. I've
Yes.
done so
Yes.
many of them,
Yeah.
and yeah, probably in the next couple of weeks I should get something that's a contract and
Yeah.
all of that. But
Yeah.
they did look me up. And,
Good. Good.
so, and I thought, well, I'll see. Well, and I'm sure everybody's watching what COVID is doing. It's on the rise, certain
Yes.
places,
Yes. It'll be with us
but
for a
I've got
while
all my
longer yet.
shots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I've
did
got all
I.
my
So did
shots.
I.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not taking any chances. I want to live.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Shall we leave the last word to Elvis before we close? I was going to ask you, why do you think after all these years, Elvis is still as popular as he was all those years ago in the 50s and 60s and 70s? Is there anything you can put your finger on and say, this, I think, is the reason why?
Well, I wouldn't know the reason, and I say this because somebody asked me, if you had one word for Elvis, what would it be? And I said, it doesn't exist.
Mm.
there is no word. Whatever it is, it's the right word, but there is no one. The word doesn't exist because other than he was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
When you think of his background and his sudden rise to, or what seemed a sudden, he was playing the guitar for a few years before he became known. It hit the Ed Sullivan Show, but he just was magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, whatever it was, he was the only one that had it.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, and that's like who was the actress in the early days? The It Girl.
Yes.
Was that? I can't think of who the actress was in The Silence. She was known as the It Girl. Well, he had it.
Yeah.
And we don't know what it is, do we?
Yeah, that's why it was so special, you see, because he was the only one that had it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And it's still when you do the shows, one of the things that's very warming is to see the great grandchildren of the Elvis fans.
Yes. Yeah.
People that are my age who are great grandparents now, and raising them, helping their kids raise their kids with Elvis music and an appreciation for that. So the music, even if it were to kind of fade out for a little bit, as sometimes everything has an up and a down to it, that music there will always be, I do know this, there will always be Elvis on the radio.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll always be the music. There'll always be his films, and there'll always be his TV specials. Yeah.
But the music will always, it just will never die. And then somebody said, you only die when you're forgotten. And I thought, well, Elvis will never be forgotten because of his movies and his music combined. That's right. I thought, well, I'll never die either because I was his leading.
That's true. Now, I have to say this. When I've watched The Trouble with Girls, I've always thought, she looks like a lot of fun. And that's really been proved tonight with me speaking to you. You are a lot of fun, Marlyn Mason.
Oh,
you really
thank you.
are.
Well, it is. I have just been so lucky. I don't ask why. I'm not religious. I'm just here. As Bruce Lee said, what is, I is here.
Yeah.
And for some reason, life has just been wonderful to me.
Yeah.
And I can't say I've ever had a tragedy. I mean, we lose people, and that's just life, how life goes.
Yes.
And so I just saw those as being lucky to know people that, have passed on long before their years, and like Elvis. Mm-hmm. But I've just been tremendously lucky and continue to be.
Well, I consider myself lucky getting to speak to you tonight. I really do. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Oh, I hope we get to meet one day.
Yes. And well, we're going to keep in touch anyway.
And thank you, Steve, so much.
Thank you very much, Marlyn.
All right, honey. Be safe and have a wonderful life. And goodbye to all the fans.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
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 My thanks once again to Marlyn for joining me on the show. I hope you enjoyed listening to her talk about her time working with Elvis. I certainly enjoyed speaking with her. She's such a lovely lady. Please check out my other interviews on this channel with people who knew and worked with Elvis. Also, a reminder that I broadcast live on YouTube every Sunday when there is a featured Elvis topic, a Fan of the Month quiz with prizes up for grabs. You can chat with other Elvis fans live, and you can also phone in the show and discuss all things Elvis. Thanks for listening, and I hope you can join me next time on Elvis the Ultimate Fan Channel.